Hello. Today I wanted to expand off the last video off of dominance in society and how really this entire system that we are in, this world system that we are in, is based upon dominance. When we have the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, all the histories of war and conquering, being that today is still Rome, being that today is an expansion of those psychological mind control programs, I wanted to expand it and go from the deepest parts of history that I am comfortable with it going into from just my own research, and then take it into this this next agenda that's being more and more obvious to me with the way politics are, this so-called fake news, this so-called real news agenda, the New World Order agenda, the alien agenda, the idol worship with celebrityism and Hollywood, and the globe model, the university system. All of these programs are on purpose. There is no coincidence to the way these systems are being ran, and there is an algorithm to these systems. There is an agenda to these programs. They're not existing exclusively on their own without understanding that they are connected to each other. There is a superiority complex to this system. When I was just walking around the store yesterday, listening to Christmas songs everywhere you go, Christmas songs, Christmas, Christmas, Christmas this, Christmas that, and it's not about Christmas, just like the essence of Christmas, like they try to tell you. It's not about that. This is to tap into the child mind, to root your present moment in your childhood, your inner child frequency bandwidth, whatever that may be. It's to lock you into that reality. When they're playing Christmas songs, on one level, that's to get your kids to be wanting and thinking about Christmas and relating that mentality to Santa Claus, which is just a mirror image of the white bearded God mentality, just like the blue eyes and blonde hair Jesus, and so on and so forth. Your Hollywood actors, your presidents of the United States, your forefathers, every single person that has represented some kind of leadership or some kind of superiority over your existence in the mainstream agenda, the Roman New World Order, because this is the mentality. There's nothing new to the world order. It's always been a world order. It's just been working up to the world order. For them, the so-called they, to call it a new world order is to make you fight something as if it were new, acting like it never existed in the first place, when in fact these programs have been existing and have been polished for centuries, generations upon generations. If you call yourself conscious and woke and all this other shit, walking around bopping your head to Christmas songs, listening to the mainstream music, and believing in Beyonce and all these other people in the system are gonna do something for you, this system it's way more complex than that. It's way more complex. The music of today is not even music anymore. Like, why do you think there's still oldies music playing right now? There's a lot of reasons. One reason is because musicians back in the day before they were completely compromised were actually tapping into how you would understand like intuition on the deepest level. Understand intuition from a musical perspective. Understand that you can intuit musical harmonics that are based in compassion, empathy, love, like the true essence of love. Not all this commercial bullshit that's getting promoted through this TV-14 mentality. That mentality is designed to keep you in that adolescent version of reality. Excuse me. The music of today is all pop music. I don't give a shit what they call it. They can call it R&B, they can call it soul, you can call it rock, you can call it soft rock, you can call it whatever it is. It's all pop. All of it. Every last bit of it. There are no songs today that will last like they did in the past, before they were like Michael Jackson songs, like kids being pretty much born thinking that, you know, they they already know Michael Jackson songs. You have Smokey Robinson, Marvin Gaye, The Temptations. You have all this musical essence that exists. You have a musical essence that exists that is how I would relate it to the difference between the frequencies of 440 and 432. Those differences exist not only in music, not only in the harmonics of frequency, but they exist in your food. They exist in the education that you think is education. They exist in the history that you think is history. They exist in the movies that you think are movies and don't realize that they are actually amplifying this superiority complex. They exist in the so-called healthcare industry that we believe is for us, for the people. These vibrations exist in the water that you drink when you realize that your water's been fluoridated. It exists in the vibrations of realizing that the so-called powers that be are destroying the rainforests, are poisoning the oceans, are poisoning the air, are taking a hold of the essence of your actual children, your next generations, and installing a system of limitation and separation that today is way more complex than it was even 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever the case may be. It's very complex when you understand the depths of information sharing of today. The information being shared today is of such a velocity that the parents can't keep up with their children. So, just like, I can't remember what movie it is. Oh, True Lies. Tom Arnold said to Arnold Schwarzenegger in there, he said, like Axl Rose and Madonna are your parents now. Or are his kids' parents now, his daughter's parents now, because of the way she acts. And that's true. If that was true back in 94, 93, something like that, then like what's true of today is the internet. It's the pop culture, like Axl Rose and Madonna multiplied times the internet, social media. So everything that gets pumped out of the mainstream, like the parents of today are YouTube sensations. These kids who are themselves separated, who are themselves sick and diseased, and totally bought into this mind control superiority program, that this is why they are promoted and amplified by the system itself, because now you have slaves teaching slaves. And this goes all the way back into slaves teaching slaves how to be popular slaves, how to be happy slaves. And as long as they have 1 million subscribers and 1 million views, and they have like celebrities have all these paparazzis following them, and then they have it's so complex that people they make you believe in it further and further and further, and then they blend all of the systems. When you blend YouTube with Netflix, they have this Miranda Sings is doing that at the same time. You have Casey Neistat, who is doing that with CNN. He's blending from YouTube sensation to CNN. You have Colleen Ballinger's Miranda Scenes blending with Netflix. This is how this system is working. It adds credibility to itself, just like you had Bernie Sanders tie in with TYT and Alex Jones tie in with Donald Trump. This is the merge. This is the system trying to make itself more digestible to the people, so they can believe whatever it is that the next tiny story that's part of a bigger story will be sold as and packaged as. And it goes all the way from you believing in Christmas and Thanksgiving and the 4th of July and the Easter Bunny and Mother Goose and all that other shit, and the superiority between having a blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus, having the bushy hair, white God, the bushy hair, white Santa Claus. It taps into your inner child. That's where the superiority complex comes in. Your forefathers, your presidents. See, your presidents believe in the university system. You believe in the forefathers that the the so-called new world of today, which is the mainstream world of Western society. The peak of that is Hollywood and the United States, also referred to as America, which is another mind control program because it's not America. Just like DC isn't a part of the United States, the United States isn't America. The United States is a corporation. It's all a mentality. And then when you go even further, you realize that the entire world with your legal name attached to it is a corporation. The entire mentality based upon fiat currency and the slave program, the fear separation program, is a corporate entity in itself. It has no humanity. So it has no reason to be humane. So if you believe in Christmas and in the Santa Claus and the God that they tell you that exists and how he thinks and how his son acts and thinks and how the churches thinks and how the Easter Bunny acts and how Thanksgiving is and how New Year's and Halloween and the 4th of July, all this stuff should be Veterans Day, Labor Day, like all these, we are ran by the banking industry. And the deeper root beyond that is what that industry believes in. So that industry believes in itself. Obviously, it worships itself and it wants to promote itself even further. So they put all these Hollywood actors, all white actors, in your face to maintain this superiority complex. It's a subconscious superiority complex. That's like the new version of the supremacy program. It's the same thing, but it's a lot lighter to understand that it's a subconscious superiority complex when you realize that there's an actual spiritual warfare, an actual physical warfare and intellectual warfare that is going against the indigenous and the aboriginal people, and it is not new. When they called the Native Americans and the indigenous people all across the world native, or they called them primitive and savage, that is when that war kicked into gear. That is when that superiority complex kicked into gear. When they started colonizing Africa and saying that this is the way it's going to be, that's when that war started to kick in and activate even further. And that is the same time frame, the 1492 time frame, when Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue and all that shit. When the Moors started to decline in power, when the heliocentric model started to activate, when the university system started to kick off, all that time frame, that those so-called forward thinkers started to get heavy duty in your face, and they kicked in this evolution theory with Darwinism. Darwinism was that's the essence of it all. That's the root structure of this superiority complex and this world agenda, is to think that since you came from stardust, from a big bang to an earth, to dinosaurs, to monkeys, to you, then you believe that technology is the next version of dinosaurs to monkeys. So from you to transhumanism is the next evolutionary step. And since you believe in that system and the system believes in itself, then you're just going to go along with it. And this cannot be challenged at all. If you challenge that mentality, something is wrong with you. This is like the Constitution. It's like if you say anything against the Constitution, something is wrong with you. That's a fucking problem. There's a big problem with that. And it's getting more complex because now they're actually challenging it with this movie like Miss Sloane that's out there. Miss Sloane was about this lady who actually she's a lobbyist, and they wanted to show the nastiness of lobbyists and the senators and all that shit, how rotten that program is, calling themselves, because Hollywood wants to put itself out there like it's not the bad guy, and they need to have like good guys and bad guys. And in this story, you get caught up in the 50% version at best of the story. So in relation to, like, I kind of got off on a tangent right now, but in relation to like politics, you have, if it's even true, like it's even worse than this, 50% of the people didn't even vote. So the system, even if that's even true, because I think it's actually more than that, because even those people that voted didn't want to vote. A lot of them didn't want to vote. So let's say 50 plus 25%, 75% of the people believe the system totally is full of shit. You have another 15% who are on the fence about it because they kind of know that it's full of shit, but they still are ingrained with all that mind control program. They can't let it go. So you have about a good 80+% of the population believe that this system is totally a farce. And that's in the belief structure. That's not even in a knowingness, because you have people who are in a knowingness, which is up to the individual. You have a knowingness mentality and understanding within people that's in a smaller percentage, because in order to know the system, you have to know yourself. You can't know the system unless you know yourself. So there's only so many people who have disconnected themselves from the system to get out of that belief system and get into the knowingness. When you get into the knowingness of yourself, then you can start to know and understand the system. So this system is based upon the destruction and self-destruction of the individual and the collective together. On every level, there is no degrees of separation between these agendas, period. So it goes from the forefathers and what they represent. What holds the forefathers up? You got the Constitution, you got the government, you got all these revolutions, you got the New World, which is the United States, you got the university system, which is holding that up, is the evolution program, NASA. You have the dinosaur theory, the Big Bang theory, the gravity theory, the theory of relativity. All of these theories that they told you that are only your reality. Not saying that this stuff doesn't exist in some kind of way. Some of it's just full of shit. But largely, this information is designed to maintain the superiority complex. And that's the intent. So they don't have to tell you the whole truth. They just got to tell you half truth at best, and then put some glitter on it. And then you'll be like, oh, shiny stuff. Oh, good, that's cool. And then you'll believe it. And simultaneously beat down any kind of kickback. So any kind of kickback. Anything that challenges the system. So if you challenge part of the system, they hit you back harder like you're challenging the entire system. So right now, since that 80+% of people are not believing in the system is known by the system itself, they're systematically trying to implode it as like a controlled demolition. So this movie like Miss Sloan is telling you that, oh, well, yeah, there's the lobbyists who are bad people. Then there's the senators who are bad people at the same time. And they're different. Like, no, this whole system is designed that way. It's not a fucking movie. It's designed to have lobbyists and crooked senators. It's designed to have the superiority complex. It's not a fucking dramatic like superhero movie where one person is a good guy and the other people are bad guys because they're more worse. It's like, what the fuck? Like, but that's how all these movies are designed. They'll never tell a dramatic story about the colonization like King Leopold in the Congo. They won't never tell the story of that. They'll slip a little movie like Blood Diamond out there, but they won't tell you about the depths of the diamond industry beyond that. They won't tell you about the colonization of Africa as a whole. They won't tell you about the mind control program of the primitive and savage mentality. That stuff won't be promoted. So, back on track. Excuse me. Forefathers backed up by evolution. Evolution, it goes straight into NASA. So that's your past. Evolution tells you your past. It maintains your present, which creates a future, which is NASA, SpaceX, going to Mars, going to the moon, whatever it is. Technology, transhumanism, CERN. All this shit is backed up by your idea of the past. Your idea of the past is what gives you your complacency in your present moment. Excuse me. So your present moment is based upon zombieism, pretty much, because you believe that the system is true and it's cool, that it's just going to take care of itself and everything will be okay because your so-called leaders, they got it. They got a handle on it. They got Santa Claus. They got Jesus. They got God. They got the 4th of July. They got the Constitution. They got Thanksgiving. They got New Year's Eve. They got all your holidays, all your bank holidays. They got it. So all you got to do is just get by, make it. We just got to get through this. We just got to just keep on trucking. That's that mentality. As long as you keep on trucking and keep being distracted by the system itself, that's it. That's all that needs to be done. Because you'll still be in the belief system, and you won't never get into a deeper knowingness of yourself, because once you get into that, you'll challenge the system as a whole. So it's not just about the bushy haired Jesus and the or a bushy haired God and the blonde haired blue eyed Jesus and Santa Claus. It's about the annual playing of that Santa Claus music, that frequency. It's about your presidents who are a reflection of that blonde haired blue eyed Jesus. It's about your all your politicians, your senators, your so-called leaders. These aren't leaders. Like, feel the essence of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. Like, actual leaders that started to pull something from inside of you. Like that intuitive space I spoke of in music. There's an intuitive space in leadership that exists. It's a vibration. When you take the word intuitive out of it and understand that there's a vibration of music, of harmonics that exists, that is relative to action. These leaders are not leaders. These presidents, they're not leaders. They don't give a shit about you. They give a shit about themselves, protecting the system as a whole. The actors back up that psychological mind control program of your so-called leaders. When they have a totally white Oscars and all that other stuff, your cartoons, even the voices of these cartoons are of a, hey, who talks like that? Hey guys, want to come down? Like, that's a whole vibration for your kids. It's a psychological setup. So when they grow up, they start looking forward and feeling good and happy about engaging in that kind of reality. So it simultaneously brings up a vibration and simultaneously brings down their true connection with themselves. Their true wanting to understand who and what they are. Because who and what they are is based upon this so-called new system. It's all a cognitive dissonance. It sets up this space to where they will defend it. They will act like it doesn't exist. That when the job is done, people who have fallen for this program will act like this system doesn't exist and defend it. Defend the symptoms of the disease. And then once that keeps getting put out there, then people will defend themselves right into the next slave box. Because they believe in these idols that have been put out in front of them. So you have like your Beyoncés, your Jay-Z, your Obamas, your Ellens, your Oprahs. You have all these people who are out there to make you think that this is separate. Oh, we're such a diverse. No, when you think about mentally, there is no diversity. Psychologically, there is zero diversity in the thinking, the thought process of the United States, the mainstream media, the so-called American dream. Zero diversity. It's all about superiority, which is the extension of this supremacy program. All of your entrepreneurs, all your Bill Gates, your Steve Jobs, your Stephen Hawking's, like all these people, all the people who donate, charity, all this stuff. This is all to get you thinking that you have to be a certain way. So people they will bleach their hair, they will bleach their skin, they will straighten their hair, they will do anything to be accepted by this superiority complex system. Anything. And exists from all the way from the Barbie mentality all the way down, all as far as you can go. And as they are bringing in this is we're so diverse, everything is diverse, when it's not psychologically. They're blending the race mentality and they're blending the the gender bending, all that stuff, the gender equality, the feminism. This is all to soften everything up and to lighten everything up. So just like they emasculate black men specifically, they're emasculating men completely, but it's a focus on black men, just like there's a focus on shooting black people on the streets, so-called black people on the streets. It's a mentality, because if you beat down, that's the checker game. You beat down one side, then that means you're building up. You need protection from the other side because they're winning. They're the good guys. So you have simultaneously removing power from your opposition, and you're simultaneously adding power to the program that you know what I'm saying. So you have these Howard Sterns that are out there. You have your presidents, all these people. They have confidence in this system. That's another part of this. They have confidence in this system so much that they'll make jokes about it. They're like, it's funny. They'll act like it doesn't exist. That's another part of it. Like, they act like this program doesn't exist. Like Hollywood itself, celebrities themselves, Ellen, the president, for them to act like Standing Rock, like this stuff isn't happening, for them to act like this stuff is not going on, that is actually more of the biggest part of the problem, because you'll have groups and groups of people down the line who will do the same thing. And they are doing the same thing. And it's about that confidence that creates the foundation for people to defend their own enslavement. And as long as they're defending their own enslavement, they will be more prone to accept whatever the next agenda may be. So when they emasculate black men, they're emasculating the divine masculine. So they're destroying the divine masculine, they're destroying the balances between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. They're destroying the balances of nature. When they're telling you that we're all human, we're all one, that's to set up, they first got to separate the man from the woman. Then they can separate the man from the man, like their own power, and the woman from her own power. So once you get that going, which is what this whole patriarchal programming is based upon, all your presidents are not only white, but they're also all men, white men. So you get you get two birds with one stone. You get the race agenda, and you get the superiority, the male-dominated society program going at the same time. That's where the focus comes in. So they beat down the sexual program and then start blending sexes with this whole LGBT agenda with the mainstream media. You can see how it's being promoted through mainstream, how they're selling this whole system, and blending it to make people uncomfortable, to make it seem like, oh, I was born this way. Yeah, these kids growing up saying, oh, I was born like this. You were born like that? I think it's more complex than this. There's more complexities in it when you understand that there are hormones in milk, when you understand that there's a psychological program in your education system. There's a psychological program in the vibrations of society as a whole. There is no born like this mentality. There are preferences based upon the system. There are preferences based upon how you were raised. This system as a whole is trying to tell you, like, you were born from the Big Bang. You were born from a monkey. You were born from the forefathers. Like, this is how this program wants to tell you that this shit is normal. The system is trying to tell you that what is normal is actually natural. But what they consider normal is actually unnatural and destructive and self-destructive. And like I said in previous videos, I don't have anything against the LGBT or any gay, anything like that. This is not about attacking any individuals or anything like this. This is about spreading information about the system itself and the focus of the system itself, because there is a definite focus and an agenda with all of these psychological programs. This system is based upon separating you from nature, separating you from the balance of nature, and worshiping destruction. The system is about a destructive intelligence. These are the kings of destruction. And if they create a system where you worship the system of destruction, then that's all they need to do. Because you have separated yourself from your understanding of creation, of being a creator being, of being a manifestation of the Most High Spirit, of even having a spirit, of even having a soul. This was why the university system, which is basically your God of today, the mainstream God, the pop God, this is why it's inherently atheist. Because if you start tapping into the soul and the spirit, then you will cut the legs out of the system of separation and destruction and distraction as a whole, and you will start to challenge every tier up from that. So just as I was saying, they separate the man from the woman, they attack the sexes, and then they attack the races. The same thing, the difference in cultures. They attack that and say, well, everybody's the same. Everybody's just human. We have to stop this separation because it's leading up to war. It's like, no. That's not what's leading up to war. That's not what this program is warring about. Excuse me. This system is warring because it's fighting itself because it's by design. It's not because of race difference. That's what they're promoting on television for you to believe in, so they can sell you this human agenda, because as long as you're balled up into this one system of thinking, you're easier to control. Because if you tap into your ancestral roots, they can't control that. They can't fight that because that's too much of a power to have. So they have to water everything down, turn everything into a mayonnaise sandwich, everything into a lunchable reality, and have you eat that reality for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, get overweight, die quickly, pass that shit down to your next kids, and hopefully that next generation won't challenge the system either, because they're getting fatter quicker, they're being distracted quicker, they're being more enveloped by the system quicker, and that story will just keep going on and on and on. So if they got you separated from your ancestral roots, they got you caught up in separated from nature, not even knowing whether or not you're a man or a woman from childhood, the next step up from that to have the older generation is to separate, is to have you caught up in thinking that it's all about blue and red in politics, when in fact they'll never focus on the reality that you'll see this. Look, 25% voted for Clinton, 25% voted for Trump. Okay, they focus. Every single essence of this storyline is focused on 50%. It's as if this shit is even real, because I explained earlier, this shit is worse than this. What they're telling you is that this happened. Well, what about the 46, which is basically 50% of other people who don't believe in the system and didn't vote at all? And then you have the people who voted who don't want to vote because they think the system is broken, but just keep going along with it because that's the only thing that they know. What about the other people that didn't vote? That will never be addressed. That's just like floating out in nothing land. And they actually demonize you guys, us, to say, oh, well, they're just either conspiracy theorists or lazy or stupid or whatever it is that they have to make us out to be in order to build themselves up. I mean, it's ridiculous. But this is what I wanted to address is this agenda is to water everything down and focus your energy. So you can see that it's all a focus on Clinton and Trump, just like the email stuff and this Pizzagate shit. So they will talk. They'll actually do skits on Saturday Night Live about emails. Those emails are being shared by WikiLeaks. As soon as they start talking about Pizzagate, not a fucking word came from the same source. You like, and if they do say anything about it, it's because this Pizzagate shit is being manipulated as another part of the implosion process. They need to release information here and there in order to make a good guy and a bad guy. Obviously, your emotions are tapped into. Everybody wants to protect the kids. Everybody wants to protect the babies from these fucking pedophiles and all this garbage that's going on underneath the infrastructure of the White House and the Catholic Church and all that garbage that's going on. So that's on purpose. They want you to get emotionally engaged in this. So at a later date, they can put these villains out there, and who's going to prosecute these villains? Your superheroes. And those superheroes will bring in the next agenda. And those superheroes will tap into this 46.9% energy thread of the people who didn't vote. That's what the world agenda is focused on. It's focused on flipping from red and blue and going straight into red, blue, black, and purple and all that other shit, to put everything together and say, well, we're going to fix everything. We're going to drain the swamp on a world level and install something new. But they won't, because the essence of this is mind control, and it's not new, and it won't change. These images are basically your forefathers of the United States. It's the Constitution that you cannot challenge at all. You can't say anything about. If you do, you'll be prosecuted. The kings of destruction. This is why people so-called look towards. So this destructive mentality created a new world. This new world is based upon a vibration that is not natural. It's an illusion. It's based upon belief systems. Your ancestors, your ancient cultures, your ancient civilizations, they were tapped into a relationship with nature and spirit that was coming from a knowingness. That intuitive vibration, that energy of spirit was a knowingness. It didn't have anything to do with belief. Belief was an invention by the church. Belief was an invention by this destructive intelligence to separate you from your knowingness, to separate you from nature, to separate you from the balances between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, to separate you from everything that is deeply rooted in your essence, that is deeply rooted in everything that you are, that exists outside of time and the manipulation of time, that space that is beyond anything that can be controlled. When you have separation between nature and spirit, when you have separation between the balances of alchemy, which is true science, and the relationship and understanding and overstanding of spirit, then you can install control. You can install dominance. You can install superiority. You can install all of these illusions. Once that program can get it's installed, then that will be a new world, a new vibration, a new frequency, a new consciousness of people. over time. And this is what's happened today. Everything that's being promoted on the television, all this Bernie Sanders shit, all these like Hollywood celebrities getting involved in politics, TYT, Alex Jones, all that shit is just an illusion. Howard Stern talking about like oh, I gotta sneeze. It's the ego itself. The ego, the amplified artificial ego. Because there's no getting rid of the ego. It's part of the essence of your ego. How I see it is the essence of who you are outside of illusion. Once you get into the illusion, like if somebody were to become like a businessman and you say, oh, well, he's changed since he got promoted to that new CEO position and all that other stuff. That's like that's an example of an artificial ego or a part of an artificial ego. There's all kinds of other things that are a part of the artificial ego that add up to separation from your family, separation from your kids, separation from your culture, separation from your ancestors. You can still have, in essence, a relationship with who and what you are and have a deeper relationship with all of those other groups that I just mentioned. This system means to drain all that out and water it all down and turn it into one story so they can sell these next agendas. These next agendas will be rooted in that shallow foundation of the university system, the forefathers mentality, the Constitution mentality, all that stuff. NASA, this fake science, it'll be rooted in that mentality. And it'll be an extension of what was in the past. It'll be the next thing, just with a shiny spaceship or something like that, if they go that route. Or if they go with some kind of intelligent beings, whatever it was, whatever it is, it'll be an extension. It'll be about power within the destructive intelligence. And it'll be about changing, so-called changing, based upon what was manipulated to be. That's the point. They say, well, this is humanity's problem. This is humanity's doing. It's like, no. If you go into understanding what has happened over time, you'll realize that it's more complex than that. It is not humanity's doing. The military-industrial complex and the prison-industrial complex has a definite focus, has a definite intention, and is not about humanity. In fact, it's more about the inhumanity, the inhumane individuals who have been promoting these systems. So what actually is true humanity? We will never be allowed to understand it as long as these illusions, these styrofoam realities keep getting put in front of us. But you can see true humanity in the kids who haven't been affected by society, who haven't been manipulated by the television and their parents who have been manipulated by television, and so on and so forth. Politicians, all that other stuff. True humanity exists inside. This system is based upon externalizing and worshiping the physical reality. Zero connection with spirit. So this agenda is going to keep going on off of these false realities. So they'll tell you to give them billions of dollars so they can go to Mars when they never went to the moon. And these pictures are all CGI of Earth in order to maintain dominance. Not only over your physical body, but over your psychology and your spirit. This is a spiritual warfare. Before it can become a psychological warfare, it's a spiritual warfare. Before it can become a physical warfare, it's a psychological warfare. So when you get to the nitty-gritty of it, this is a spiritual warfare that has been amplified into a very complex psychological warfare, that has been amplified into a very complex physical warfare when you understand like all the things that have led up to today, and they're still going on to today. And it's spiritual because we're not connected with nature, our roots, our basic understandings and connections to each other, our culture. It's all being watered down. This is why they focus so much on race. This is why they're focusing so much on the gay agenda and gay rights and Ellen and Beyonce and all this other stuff and Barack Obama and all this. This is to sell in this out of balance frequency to tell you that this is humanity. Like they're telling you that war and destruction is humanity gone awry. It's like, no. Just like they tell you that, they're trying to tell us that, you know, everybody's the same race. Everybody is the same culture. Everybody's the same this. Everybody's the same sex. It's just, there is no man and woman. There's just the choice between man and woman. It's like, oh, fuck, man. What the hell is going on here? Separation, intentional separation and destruction to maintain the superiority subconscious complex is what's going on. As long as we keep referring to ourselves as black and keep allowing the system to refer to people as African American, this shit needs to be held accountable. For people who are in the media, whoever might share videos or see this or anything, like, start holding these fucking people accountable for calling people African American. In that moment, like, boom, right in that moment, they need to be stopped. Because that's an entire frequency. That's at the root of this mind control program. Just like the corporation of the United States, and the United States calling itself America, when it's not referencing the entire energy of America, the Americas, it's only referencing itself as America to build up itself, the corporation of itself. Like, no. This shit needs to be held accountable. We need to start understanding, understanding, and overstanding our true roots and how far this mind control program goes. Because our kids are going to be like, why didn't y'all say anything about this? If you knew that you were that you were native to the entire earth plane, how the fuck could you allow these people to label you something so empty? Now I understand, like, I myself used to refer to myself as like black and like what they would call African American and all that other shit. But that time is done. That shit is over with. It's no more. And when we understand that on a collective scale, it has a purpose. It has a meaning. It's like calling somebody the N-word or Negro or whatever it is. It's to keep people down, to keep energies down. It's the same thing. So if we don't start changing that in the moment, then in ourselves and with how other people address us, then it's going to take that much longer for things to change on a collective scale. And you'll realize there's a very, very big difference between this individual and an individual who is understanding of this information. And it's not just about the so-called black people, the Aboriginal peoples of America. This is about everybody. in the earth plane, reconnecting with their ancestors. Once you do that and you understand, because this is just like, it don't matter if you're Chinese or Mexican and vote, it's the same thing. You still a slave ass wearing a fucking sticker. A slave sticker. There's no difference between that. Vibratorily speaking, it's the same shit. But there is a difference between this person and this person. And the energy of this person is what is known as normal. The energy of this person is mainstream, the mainstream world. And everything that I just referenced in this video leading up to now is to maintain this vibration. So you can buy into the next storyline. Whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is that they sell you next. It's how that they're selling you something, period. That they have a superiority energy over you that makes you believe that they can sell you anything. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining me. And until